Okay, thank you. With this, I think we can start our next plenary, Plenary 5, that continues a bit the idea of the previous plenary, where we were talking about how to develop a space ecosystem. Topic of Plenary 5 is how to evolve or co-evolve a space ecosystem. And it is my great pleasure to tell you that we have a keynote of the Director General of the Mexican Space Agency, Mr. Salvador Landaros, but unfortunately he could be not here with us personally, but he has sent us a video. But I'm very happy to hand over to the moderator of this session, which is Masami Onoda, the Director of the Washington, D.C. office of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA. Masami, would you like to introduce the keynote and then moderate the session, please?
Thank you, Christian, and thank you everybody for staying here after the long day. We still have a couple sessions, and I am tempted to stand up because I'm relatively not so tall. And I'm based in the US, so always, even if I stand up, I'm always up to the hips of the people who I'm speaking with, so I always like to stand up anyway. So I am Masami Onoda from the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA. And today happy to moderate this session with our 4 distinguished speakers, and we have a keynote, as Christian just introduced, from Dr. Salvador Landaros, Director General of the Mexican Space Agency, and he sent us a video presentation, and we would like to show that now. A pioneer in space in Mexico, Dr. Landaros has a broad academic career as well as in industry, and has received multiple distinctions in the field. So let us now listen to Dr. Landaros's video.
Representatives of space agencies, EA friends, and Latin American colleagues, I am certain that this fruitful conference, Glec 2022, will help us in understanding and in having a clear view of the way forward in collaboration to foster the socioeconomic growth through the space technology and all the benefits derived from it. The space policy of Mexico is defined as a state policy. Its purpose to use science and space technology and generate jobs with high added value, promoting innovation and the development of the space sector, contributing to the positioning of Mexico in the international community, in the peaceful, efficient, and responsible use of space, focusing its priorities on 3 axes: space telecommunications and navigation, air observation, and space exploration. Satellite telecommunications, starting with the launch of the first generation of Mexican satellites in 1985, the Morelos 1 and 2, and the first Mexican astronaut, the scientific experiments he carried out in space, followed by the Solidaridad 1 and 2 satellites, the Satnex 5 and the Eutelsat 6, 7, 8, and the Bicentenario and Morelos 3 satellites. The advances have been highly relevant. We are working in accelerating the digital transformation by using our telecommunication satellites for well-being and social inclusion, preserving and updating our orbital positions. Mexican Space Agency also has as one of its priorities to develop a comprehensive air observation system which will contribute to improving the quality of life of the population and the economic growth of Mexico. Likewise, it will have a social impact since it will collect essential data for decision-making, management of natural resources, agriculture, the protection of the environment, the monitoring of climate change, ocean science, security and surveillance, urban intelligence and infrastructure, early warning of disasters caused by natural phenomena, as well as for prevention, mitigation, preparation, and response. Reception and processing of satellite images is very extensive, with installation of ground stations that receive images from several satellites such as Aqua, Terra, Landsat, UI, Worldview, Spot, GOES, SOMI, NPP, and Sentinel. A relevant project we have is to establish the Mexican Climate and Air Population Observatory that we have started already. In Mexico, different institutions have managed to develop capacities for the analysis and exploitation of satellite images and the construction of nanosatellites for these purposes, such as ASTEXACT, NanoConnect 2, and DDoS Atlacom 1. Also, we are working in scientific and technological development for deep space exploration, having already projects to Moon and Mars. Not to mention a wide variety of astronomical subjects. These experts who maintain the country's international prestige in space matters are some of our astrobiologists, astrophysicists, geophysicists, and space medicine experts with experience in monitoring cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, neurological systems. There are space development centers in Zacatecas state and the state of Mexico to promote space activities and the education of human capital, and a Galileo Information Center in which the Mexican Space Agency has offered to support the promotion of the use of information in Mexico and in the region, in facilitating its use in training of human capital and in industrial collaboration and development of technological projects. Our participation in collaboration topics with the main space agency of the world is relevant. Likewise, in international organizations to promote the peaceful use of outer space, such as the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, UNOSA, the Commission on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, COPUOS, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, CEC, the OECD, the ITU, the Ibero-American Space of Knowledge of the Ibero-American General Secretariat, and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. In industrial development, Mexico has more than 300 companies in the aerospace industry. Several of them devote to space activities and others with great potential and vocation to venture into the subject. We have higher education institutions of great international prestige in a country like Mexico lies in stimulating new spaces for the competitiveness and prosperity of Mexicans in a world market by the development of innovation as a strategy to face great national challenges. Fields of space policy privilege the public interest and stimulate the creation of programs aimed at penetrating strategic areas such as society and the environment, as well as priority sectors of the country. In addition, this work will give a firm impulse to the recovery, strengthening and configuration of an ambitious policy in science, technology, and innovation, articulate with industrial and economical development programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Landeros. And I think that was an excellent summary of where the Mexican space ecosystem is now. I vividly remember when we were last in Guadalajara with the IAC and how they have grown since then in navigation, telecommunication, Earth observation, space exploration, as they say. And also to be connected with the space community, international space community, like the IAF and others that were mentioned. So I think this was an excellent keynote to set the stage. Now, about this panel, so co-evolution is a great phrase, and from the program committee, when we were working on this, I heard that the idea was to, in the previous panel, to speak about how ecosystems come about, and then in this panel to speak about how our ecosystem has arrived here, and then how we keep our ecosystems evolving. So this is, well, on the assumption that there are multiple stages of the evolution of the ecosystem, space ecosystem in particular. So now let us turn to our distinguished panel. So from my left to your right, we have Ms. Natavana Znova, Strategic Development and Planning Director of Azercosmos. Welcome. And to the next, we have Mr. Charles Mwangi. He is the Director of Space Sector and Technology Development of the Kenya Space Agency. Then we have Mr. Danilo Sekai. He is the Senior Space Project Analyst of the Brazilian Space Agency. Welcome. Finally, we have Mr. Amengo Torres. He is Vice President of Coordination and Education of the World Space Week Association. And I am Masami Onoda, again, head of the Washington, D.C. office of the Japanese Space Exploration Agency. So again, to set the tone a little bit, there are multiple stages of the evolution of space ecosystem. And like first to set up one, then we need to set up a governance structure like we have discussed today earlier. And also thirdly, the industry grows. And when these start to form a space ecosystem, then this needs to evolve, and we have to all think about, start thinking about the role of the public, the private sector, how that changes, and how do we keep up with that change, all of that. So that is all the challenges that in different stages we are, though we all face at some point. And also we need, at last, to think about talent. Who in this room feels that there is enough and abundant talent that we don't have to make any efforts anymore? Who is struggling to compete with others to grab enough talent for your work? Yes, all of us, I think. Particularly for JAXA, this is almost the top priority now to try to find talent. So thank you. With this in mind, I would like to turn finally to the panelists to give their opening presentations each, and then move on to discussion. So can I ask Natavan to first present? Thank you.
Thank you, Masami. I would like to talk about our Azercosmos, the history, brief history, how we started the space in Azerbaijan and how we end up being a space agency. Thank you. So Azercosmos was established in 2010, and the aim of this program was to have a telecommunication satellite. And after 3 years, in 2013, the first telecommunication satellite, Azerspace 1, was launched into the orbit. And then we had two another satellites. One is telecommunication satellites, Azerspace 2, which was launched in 2018, and Earth observation satellite, Azersky, that was launched in 2014. If you look at all those programs, 3 satellites, we can say that they were very successful because now the 90% of the revenues are being generated outside of the Azerbaijan, and it helped us to diversify our economy. And thanks to the space activities in Azerbaijan, now we have space economy at the part of the economy in Azerbaijan. So, as you see, the telecommunication satellites we are offering different services, including data, video services, solutions, and Earth observation services in teleport, research and development. And so now we are working with 42 countries, and the number of the companies from those countries are 182. So since the first commercial activity, which starts from 2013, till today, we have generated $283 million, and it was very good for us in terms of non-oil sector, because we want to achieve the goal to diversify the economy in Azerbaijan. Regarding Earth observation satellite, I would like to tell that Azersky helps Azercosmos to tackle some problems, starting from to have efficient agriculture solutions. I want to specify smart agriculture solutions, and also to fight climate change. Because you might know that the location of Azerbaijan in the high risk zone for the next 5-10 years to come. And for this purpose, we need to have better solutions. And we say that data-based policy making in order to tackle this climate change. And for these purposes, our Azersky satellite monitors the places that are in high risk, and prepares the solutions to the government in order to have the efficient policy. For the telecommunication satellites, the coverage areas of the satellites are Europe, Middle East, Central Asia, Africa, and also South Asia. And thanks to this coverage map, now we are broadcasting around 200 TV and radio channels, and we are cooperating with international companies. Regarding strategic development domains, as I said, we started as a satellite operated back then in 2010. But last year in April, we were granted space agency function. Now we are the space agents of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Last year, we started to develop strategic development plan for the next 3 years. And we have 5 goals to starting from let's say, space, have to have sustainable space economy and also to have space governance. And now we are working on the national space strategy that hopefully will be finalized this year. And if you look at our strategic development domains, it is in line with Azerbaijan's national priorities for socioeconomic development, and also it is in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So there are 5 strategic directions that we are following since 2010. It's protection of the national interest, and here we can mention our satellite programs, because now the national TV and radio channels are being broadcasted by our satellite. And also regarding Azersky, we are trying to protect our national interests through the Earth observation solutions. The second one is expanding and strengthening international cooperation. We will say that in that sense, we are also trying to be successful. As I mentioned that now we are working with 42 countries offering the solutions. And for the best, I would say, success story of the international cooperation is to host IAC next year in Baku. And we are looking forward to see all our distinguished guests next year in Baku. And we believe that this kind of events and cooperations will enable Azerbaijan to expand its activities beyond the new geographic locations, and also help the other key space agencies actors to enter the new market. The third one is the research and development. In that sense, we are working on the national, let's say, satellite program that need to be developed by our engineers. And regarding research and development also, I would like to say the role of CubeSats, especially because we are involving students, especially from the universities, to get this kind of activities. For the socioeconomic development, as I said, we are trying to tackle the social problems via the satellite programs. Meanwhile, we are doing some space education programs in order to encourage new generation to pursue their careers in the space sector. For this one, I would like to emphasize the role of CanSat satellite competition. From 2018 till today, we did 4 local version of the CanSat competition, and from 15 universities, around 400 students participated at this competition, and we are happy that some of them now are part of our team, Azercosmos, working especially at research and development department. The final one is sustainable financial growth. So we are, in that sense, I would like to say that now more than 70% of the satellite resources are being utilized, and we are trying to have not their solution based on raw data, but to develop new solutions, turnkey solutions especially, in order to have sustainable financial growth. So if you look at where we are and what is ahead, the left side says what I said now, the very brief overview of our activities in Azerbaijan. But if we are look ahead, so all those points mentioned here is a part of our strategic development plan. And I believe we will do our best to achieve these, let's say, tasks ahead. And the IAC in Baku next year, we believe that will play a crucial role in order to achieve our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathavan, and we're all looking forward to the IAC. We have also already questions pouring in, which is great. So if you had Slido app handy with you, please do post any questions that you have. If you're not a techie person, although you're here, you can still raise your hand and ask a question. Okay, so Charles, please tell us your story.
Thank you, Masami, and I want to take this opportunity to first thank Dr. Val for the very elaborate discussion and insightful ideas that they shared during their session that was moderated by Martinez. And I hope some of the activities that you're doing in Kenya possibly resonate to that idea. I'll start by giving a journey of how our space program has grown. And I mentioned that in the earlier presentation. Our journey can be traced to the interactions that we've had with the Italian government and by extension the Italian Space Agency, which led to the establishment of the San Marco satellite launching and tracking station in Malindi, because one of the appealing reasons for its establishment was the geographic location and an east coast. And then the discussions then were what led to the need to establish a body that would engage the Italian government in the discussion. Then I would say by that then we didn't have a space ecosystem, and it was still not very clear for us how we would leverage the potential of space in those years. And it is only much later in 2009 that we had a body that was established, the National Space Secretariat, that was established to coordinate activities within the country. And then after we had that body, it was supposed to be a precursor body to the Kenya Space Agency. And in 2014, 2015, we had stakeholders, multi-sectoral stakeholders, developing the policy, the strategy, and essentially the Kenya Space Agency order that led to the establishment of the order. So in principle, we got some of the pillars, as Madam Gabriela was indicating, right. So I would say we are doing a good job so far. 2018 was an important year for us. Maybe 2017, that is when the agency came into being. And then 2018, we had the launch of the first Kenyan University satellite precursor flight, which was launched with the support from JAXA and UNOSA and development support from MASI. That had an impact in terms of people better understanding what roles space would play within our ecosystem. And again, 2018, we had the constitution of the body that would oversee the governance of the Kenya Space Agency. And then 2020 also was an important year, because that is when we tried to answer the reasons why we need an agency. So our heritage is borrowed from that center there. Potentially what you're seeing there is the platform that was used for launching. It's still in existence. And as you can see, 1967, 1988, a number of launches. No longer, we no longer launch from there, but again, that is a conversation that we're willing to get into, because we feel launch business, because again, we still have that geographical location. And again, we are very close to the equator. We want to explore that discussion and see what the potential that portends, because we feel that could grow our space sector. The strategic plan tries to put some of the elements that were mentioned that are important for the foundation into place. And our strategic plan highlights 4 core elements: space services, space capability, coordination and leadership, and corporate positioning. And under space services, we're looking at elements related to Earth observation, satellite communication, navigation and positioning, and space science. And some of the core elements that you're looking under each is infrastructure, data, because we feel that is important, and again, systems that will be able to ingest that. And then the space capability, we are looking at building the capability from the basic level up to the university, and we have a number of initiatives that we're currently undertaking, and again, because of interest, we are not able to delve into that. But more importantly, coordination, leadership, corporate positioning, we're looking at how we can set up a vibrant policy framework, engagement with stakeholders, because we feel that is where we need to grow our ecosystem from, because it's more important that we understand what their needs are, so that again, our space program addresses the needs, the societal needs, and more importantly, issues around resource mobilization, because again, some of our budgets are not as big as some of the figures that have been hearing mentioned. Again, also looking at international collaborations to try and see how we can grow the sector. We have a number of projects, and again, if you will notice, most of them have an international collaboration dimension, and that's the dimension we're looking at, because we feel that is one of the ways that we will grow our own capacity in terms of developing solutions that address our needs. And more importantly, also where we leverage on technology transfer and also co-development with our stakeholders, so that we're able to understand what roles each one of us needs to play within the sector. And we're looking at all the facets of satellite, from Earth observation, which is essentially the applications, to space science, space engineering as well. And you're looking at the space applications as the foundation, because we feel space should address a particular need within a society, and that is what you're seeking to do, and we are trying to expand that base. And then once we have that in place, then we also, in tandem, we're also growing our ground infrastructure, cutting across space science to satellite engineering, as well as capability of having, again, the last bit, the launch capability, as well as developing satellites that will be able to help us address those needs. So again, here we're looking at the dimension of growing collaborations, and more importantly, international collaboration, as well as with stakeholders. And we feel one of the key elements that we feel is important is the continual engagement with the sector, from the startups to organizations that consumers of data or consumers of services, creating a forum where we're able to share that, more or less similar to what you're having here. And the Kenya Space Expo and Conference is one of that forum that you're organizing, which will seek to bring together the local players within the space sector. And we're hoping to bring on board the international players, so that now again we can have conversation that again resonates to the needs of the country. And we hope we're extending the invitation to those who would be able to join us in that conference, and we think that is a good opportunity. And again, we want to thank the IAF for the opportunities that it continues for pushing the agenda within the sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. And we shall save the date for next month, please. Register now. Yes, so now Danilo, please, for the next presentation.
Oh, I think I went one too far. Maybe, yeah, there you go. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending, and thank you for the opportunity and the honor to be here with these distinguished colleagues. I'm gonna jump right into the content. So if you take a look at the bubble chart here on your right, you can see the structure of our ecosystem. We have multiple players and stakeholders in the Brazilian space ecosystem. It is mostly technological institutes, research institutes, military institutes, the industry, and also the university. And all of this centers on the Brazilian Space Agency that also coordinates our space efforts. So it is interesting because I know that some of my colleagues have mentioned that the Brazilian Space Agency is quite young when compared to our space program. So I guess we are right in the middle of this transition that we have been talking about. We have a legacy base that was built by the military along with specific projects and specific targets. And now we are branching out to the society and to the industry and to the university and opening the dialogue to develop it further. So that is the role of the Brazilian Space Agency. It is a civil organism. In this coordination, we also publish, for example, our PNI, which is our program for national space activities. It's a 10-year program, so the latest one, it was approved about 1 or 2 months ago. It should go up to 2031. And it looks 10 years into the future and tries to understand how we can predict and adapt to this ever-changing ecosystem, and how can we continue to adapt our older players into this new reality. So going here briefly through our ancient projects, just to give you an idea of where we came from and where we are going. The rockets and satellite developments were usually separated in Brazil, with rockets being mostly with the military and the Brazilian Air Force, while satellites would be with the National Space Research Institute. Most of you know of it, the INPE. If you take a look here on the left, you can see the family of our sounding rockets. They have been developed since the late 60s along with our space programs. And just under, you can see our 2 launch centers. And yes, we have 2 launch centers. Usually, people are more familiar with the Alcântara one. But actually, our first launch center was the Hell's Barrier, is the one right under. And it's still active, but not for very large rockets, because the city, it just grew too fast and too close to the center. Also here on the right, you can see our low Earth orbit satellites that have been developed up to date. Most of them with remote sensing capabilities. And this is where I take my first example of our collaboration, international collaboration to develop our own capacities. So for the rockets, we started along with the US, and then we developed the capacity and the infrastructure, and now we built our own rockets. And also here you can see on the pictures on the right, the one with the team in front is our geostationary communication and defense satellite. It was built along France, and we took the opportunity to transfer technology to us and to train our engineers and our teams. And with those type of trainings and collaboration, we were able to develop, for example, the Amazonia 1 satellite, which is 100% a Brazilian satellite for Earth observation. So this is what we comprehended before as a collaboration. It was more of learning and building our own infrastructure. But since we began in the late 60s, our infrastructure is very large and very complex because we wanted to do it all. And I guess that's how it was done back then. So we have launch centers, rockets, satellites, operations, and that takes a lot of power and takes a lot of funding. And for the new activities, we are switching a little bit our view into this new space view. As you can see here by the logos, these are our nanosats and small sats developments that are active or that will begin shortly. We have some related to scientific research or technological developments, or even like the constellation Catarina that has been talked about, where we are going to open as well opportunities for neighboring countries and emerging countries as well, not necessarily neighboring, to participate. And it's easier to participate in a constellation of nanosats than in one giant project. Also here we have our micro satellite launch vehicle that is in development. We are already testing our solid rocket motors, and recently tested, and it has been going really fine, so it's really good. And also on the right, considering our collaborations, now we are not only trying to learn, but we are trying to help as well. So we have signed the Artemis Accords, and we are actively looking and conscientizing our industry to find the best places where we can collaborate and where our technology can help. And here I say not only our space technology, but also our non-space sectors, which are very strong. If you look at Brazil, we have mining, we have food, we have many sectors that are not involved. They utilize space, but they are not involved in developing the technology, and they are very advanced. Also, here, I believe my president spoke on his opening speech about the Crack Talk with UNOSA initiative So this is an education initiative. We have been having a lot of those recently, which is a very good sign that we understand that we need to develop talent and find them. And the Crack Talk is interesting because it's international as well, so we plan to foster students from emerging countries that would profit from our universities or from our infrastructure to develop their own capacity. And that's very interesting because if we all develop together, this new generation, when they get in charge, I guess they will know how to play along. And this is a good direction that we are taking. We have been talking a lot about education, so we are bringing back also the program Unispaso, which is what founded actually my research in college, so about 20 years ago, and I'm really glad it's coming back as well. And the AEB school, which is a project for K-12 students. And here you can see this facility is actually our first space camp. I was the first year operation manager of that, and it's very interesting. We receive students around 15 or 17 years old, and it is built inside the Hell's Barrier Launch Center. So it's in the north of Brazil, and well, it's an underprivileged region of Brazil, so it's interesting to build a space center there and bring the kids and try to conscientize of the use of space and show them that they can build rockets or little CAN-SATs and everything, and it gives them that intellectual empowerment. And this county has about 1 or 2 months ago as well, it was considered our space county in Brazil, so it seems to be getting the results that we wanted. We have had over 4,000 students go by over the last 4 years of its existence. And just to close it up, I wanted to invite everyone also to Brazil. We are going to have the 5th IAA workshop for CubeSats, along with the 3rd symposium for small sats in Brasilia, now in October. I believe my colleague has mentioned that before, but you are all invited to come to Brasilia, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Danilo, and save the dates once again. And also it's very encouraging to see the wealth of the activities in Brazil, and also I had the pleasure pre-COVID to travel to San Jose dos Campos and to attend the the 3rd, I think, industry forum, Brazilian industry forum. That was so much heat and energy, and also the focus of various things that, because with Brazil and Japan we have cooperated a lot before, but the focus I saw was evolving really, and the ecosystem as well. You even had quite a few new space, I would say, industry there. So it was very, very encouraging to see, and I can understand, therefore, your words that you say you are in transition at the moment. So thank you. And finally, Amen, please, your presentation. And I'm so glad we have the right number of speakers, and I'm not stressed at all with time. And yes, and it's a good chance to hear in depth what everybody thinks. So please.
Thank you, Masami. So I feel honored for sharing this panel with all this distinguished public and this distinguished panel. Thank you. So let me try to explain a bit how I perceive how education and outreach initiatives can help to work as a bridge between the two extremes of the value chain in the space ecosystem, and why outreach and education could be one of the initial phases when we are talking about the evolution of this space ecosystem. So in my view, this is the kind of bridge I tried to explain before. In your left, you have the wall, already well prepared people, experts, the technology providers, the lot of applications, the 20 terabytes that data is every day coming from the Copernicus constellation from ESA. So we have the offering in this side. It's offering that is almost quite mature, and perhaps it's not still finding the way to reach the end user or the end market. That is a market that perhaps is still awakening, perhaps is realizing of new services and possibilities that perhaps are not still discovered. And in this right side, we find the majority of people, inhabitants of this planet, especially the mid and low range users they lack the specialized education, not only for working and going to the other side of experts, but especially for being users, simple users, and for discovering the benefits of these applications of space in their daily use or in their daily activities. And especially with the roles of educators, because they are in the value chain, a particular piece in between the next generations that are going to come. And it was several times explained in these panels that having talent, especially nowadays at the short term, is so complicated. And as we are going to face in the next 20 or 30 years, we have to act now, especially with the more youngest and children, especially girls, because this imbalance we have with the gender nowadays. No? So my proposal is how we can collaborate for trying to close this gap that is nowadays so wide, because in order to reach these objectives of having in the future the STEM specialists, and also for accompanying the public initiatives that are going to be developed. Finally, to have a good educated market that at the end of the day will be where we are going to sell our services and our expertise that we are developing. So building a sustainable space ecosystems, in my view, perhaps needs several, in my mind came these ideas, starting with a common space promotion strategic plan, who everyone has to say, have to have in mind personally and in the corporate and even in a country. Then involving all the space stakeholders with committed participation. Commitment is very difficult to get in this field. You can hear many people are talking a lot about the space, but when you try to have these people going to work, especially in voluntary environments, like is in our case, is so difficult to find this commitment. No? And having all the whole value chain involved, not having some parts not involved in this work. No? And then at the end of the day, we need funds. We need money for making anything. We cannot only expect receiving public funds. So private funds is also quite important to be involved in these objectives. And of course, the vocational roles that we have to start too early as I proposed before. No? And this having all this in mind, perhaps is more my particular view, and how I can see that the World Space Week Association, that as you may know is an organization that was born in the United Nations, OOSA, some years ago, with the mission of organizing every year in October 4 to 10 activities, several activities of different kind, with a broad public, from children, from universities, students, and also with involving professionals, with the idea to spread the word about the benefits of the space applications and technologies to the benefits of the humanity in general and in global. Every year we choose a theme. Last year the theme was women in space, because it's a quite important issue. You can imagine, and look to the results. More than 6,000 events organized almost spontaneously in almost 100 countries around the world, with millions and millions of people impacted with this message. We also developed a thematic poster that you can see in this picture, and take a look about the countries, the countries that reached the rank of the top 10, that were the best performers, organizing more quantity of events with more quality. Look at the list. Well, the majority of them are there. No? And this perhaps can show how some countries are so well involved in this challenge of promoting education and outreach, that the ones that have involved the Ministry of Education are the first that are in this list in the first places. That's because what I said about the commitment. No? when politicians, especially ministries, are involved, are really committed, is when you get the success, and because they have so clear the long range of the effort that has to be done, especially from today is when we have the obligation to do something now with the resources that we have now that can be made with simple activities like explaining the benefits of the GNSS, the benefits of the Geo Earth observation in disasters prevention, in maritime analysis for fishing, agriculture, and so on. No? Explaining all these subjects is the way to start and to awaken the first vocations in the young students, and also educating the decision makers. But many of them are not sensitized about all these possibilities. If we don't do so perhaps can happen, and I have found some of them, you can find several decision makers that are flat earthers, believers. No? And this is a danger. It's a danger because when we found this kind of mentalities in decision makers, the things don't go so well in the people that have the responsibility below them. As an example of the activities, and especially the different stakeholders that we involved in the last year, of course the IAF, and also the Organization of Space Flight Awareness, the DLR in Germany, organizations of STEM Promotion Alliance in Europe, with a particular participation of US Vice President Kamala Harris in a video with the participation of an astronaut with a special message, involved in the ISS National Laboratory Office. So a lot of things and little participation that can do a lot specifically with this kind of public we are trying to reach, and trying to raise the awareness about the benefits of space. No? At the end, these are more or less in some short highlights the results and the benefits that we reach with this particular activity we are developing every year. This year, the theme that we have chosen is space and sustainability, with a double idea in both ways, using the space as a tool for assuring the sustainability in Earth, and using the Earth for assuring the sustainability of space that, as well was said here, space is a new infrastructure that we have to take care and to develop properly and sustainable. No? So, and the results, finally, space outreach activities we find that are at the end highly well appreciated for all the participants, from the end users to organizers and to all the which are participants. How we do this? Well, we do with a lot of volunteers, as you have seen, about 100, and we use in some kind special ambassadors representing each country who are helping us coordinating the activities in each one. By the way, we have in Azerbaijan national coordinator in this panel here with Nataman. They have started last year with the activities with some good success, and they are continuing now. And also Masami, you were involved in some moments before, and also in the public we have Remco, another opportunity as an executive of the organization. So what I want to say, my message is that all of you are invited and are welcome participating in some way or another. You know, this is completely voluntary, and I assure you that impact and the benefits of promoting STEM and STEAM are from the short term, because the satisfaction of making reach the advantages of space in the society, and in the long term when you can see how these girls and boys that are enthusiastic because they want to be astronauts in the future, at the end, sooner or later, they participate as lawyers, as business developers, as psychologists, whatever, and perhaps, if they are lucky, as astronauts, no? Also. And this is the theme I explained before, the space and sustainability, with the sponsors we are gathering now, because everything requires for some support. And as said, I want to welcome your contribution in any kinds. So I am ready for receiving your ideas also. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Armin. So now I would like to move to questions. We already have enough on Slido, so Stefano, are you going to choose one for me, or? Oh, I can, okay. So, yes, wow, and we even have one for me. Anyway, okay, so let's start from the popular ones. How to correct or fix a space ecosystem already existing but failing in some of its stages. A difficult one, but in your own way, if you could answer, I'll ask to the three space agency people to answer. Natavan, maybe, please.
I believe the difficulties in enabling space ecosystem would be the lack of the encouragement and lack of the support. Because in this new space we call Space 4, here the key enablers are space agencies. That's why they should take care of all the activities, coordination, all the activities in space sector, and anticipate all the challenges, difficulties ahead, in order to have the effective environment. So I believe if there are difficulties, the space agencies should take step and solve this kind of problems.
Thanks, Natavan. Charles?
Yeah, thank you. I think in the previous session it was indicated that the space ecosystem is not static and it keeps on changing. And I think it is important for agencies or even the sector to keep asking itself the reason why they're doing what they're doing. And that is why it is important to have constant discussions with stakeholders to realign the aspirations as well as the goals and the visions that each of the space sector, because again, the needs of the space sector or the space ecosystem in a developed country is different from that of a developing country, and there is need to align the missions, the visions to the needs of the society, so that now again space addresses the needs within that particular ecosystem.
Great. And Danilo?
Yes, I wouldn't concentrate on fix. It's more of evolving. It has to consider the time frame. So when we started, we had a reason to start like that. But it is ever evolving, the space ecosystem. And now, for example, we have a growing private sector. And the technology was always developed by our institutes, by our technological institutes, and mostly funded by the government. So nowadays, that is unsustainable, and we are changing that and evolving and facing the challenges that it brings, mostly transferring the technology that is in the institutes to the industry to see if they can turn this into a finalized product that can really bring value to the society. So it is an evolution.
It indeed is. So let's go to this one to Charles. And if it's too difficult for you, don't have to really, to Charles. Do you foresee an African space agency like the ALCE project?
Yes, and I believe Val mentioned that earlier. There is in the works the African Space Agency, which potentially will be hosted in Egypt by the Egyptian Space Agency. Currently, we already have the African Space Policy and the African Space Strategy, and we're hoping that the agency will be operational in the coming year or so. And again, we feel that provides us an opportunity again to consolidate our resources and ideas and try and see how best we can address the needs of the African region to the best of our capabilities. So yes, it is in the works.
Very good. some encouraging words indeed. Okay, I'm going to take the one to Masami. Would you then say that human talent is the base ground for successful space ecosystem? And also there is one a bit related, how heavy is the role of education for the evolution of the space ecosystem in a country? So I'll ask maybe Armin to help me after I try to tackle this question. So indeed, talent is a struggle. Like Armin said in his presentation, to close the gap, this is an excellent handover to the next session actually. Talent, when we have new industry growing, I hear from a lot of the Japanese companies that the largest challenge that they have is acquiring talent. And the more options you have, it is great, but there will be a time when there is a gap between the talent, that pool that is there, and the opportunities out there. So which comes first is the question, and I think we have to work on both, and that's, I would describe where Japan is and maybe other countries are coming into. Armin, would you like to add anything?
Well, yeah, I think that the importance of education is that when we are talking about the necessity of having a prepared workforce today, before of that, of having this workforce or well prepared, we need that these people have made a long journey of training before. Before having decided this, they wanted to be engineer or a scientist, they have to be receiving some kind of awareness in order to orientate and to wake up their vocation for sciences in this case. No? So that, I think that is why it's so important starting now, because now with awareness we have to awaken these vocations first, because after some years these girls and boys, when they are going to decide in study the right materials and careers, and finally to form part of this workforce that we will need in the following 10 or 20 years. No? And I want to stress in the benefit of the two extremes, of the person that is educated and the person who's given the education, the teachers or whatever, because the person who's educated is getting a lot of information, new information that satisfies his or her vocation, and gives immediately or in the short term is going to find a work or starting a new business as an entrepreneur. And in the other side, the people that is giving or bringing this education is the moment that is magic when you realize that you understand something. You know, that's, I don't know who was the philosopher that you said that you really understand something when you start teaching that. Is when you really realize the essence of the material that you are teaching in that moment. So I think the benefit is in the both extremes. It's important to start now.
Thank you. Okay, interesting one. Is Azer Cosmos intending to enter the domain of human spaceflight?
This question also was asked yesterday. So regarding human spaceflight, for the time being, we don't have such a plan, but nevertheless, it might be in the next upcoming, I don't know, 5 or 10 years. So because it's important to understand why we need to launch such a mission and the values that it might bring to Azerbaijan. So that's why for the time being, we are not considering a human spaceflight mission. Thank you.
Understood. So, let me see. I like this one. Would you say it is easier to build a space ecosystem from zero or modify an existing one according to the state-of-the-art technologies and changing? So, who wants to take this one? Okay, Danilo.
I'll take a quick jab at it. It is never easier to build something from zero. If you already have some infrastructure, I believe it can always help if you have the right culture and the right mind about it but you need a lot of convincing. I saw it was Monday, I believe, that it was said that you need to convince every single person involved. So that might be the biggest challenge, but yes, it's always easier to have something ready.
So if I can chip in, I would say more often than not, you never start from zero because there are already existing players within the sector. And I would say, I give the example of the Kenya Space Agency. When we were established, one of our challenge has been trying to find our role within an ecosystem that is existing. And because you already have players who are already there, and we're trying and see how we can facilitate them, because one of the needs then that was indicated by the stakeholders was the need for a coordination body, one that would potentially be able to engage with peers across. And I believe, we would say we're building it from scratch, but it's not from scratch because they're already existing. But again, each of them has its own challenges.
Thanks, Charles. Maybe our last questions from the audience. I'll pick the most popular. How do you plan to grow your space agency size, budget, authority, responsibility within your country, given all the challenges that we have been just discussing? Armin, do you want to take it?
No.
Okay. All right, so from Natavan, we can start.
Yes, the question was about government, right? Support of the government?
Your space agency, how do you plan to grow it?
Yes. So when we look at the 10 years period of activities in Azerbaijan as Azercosmos, we achieved some, let's say, we have some achievements, but nevertheless, now we are working on developing national space strategy in order to grow and expand our services activities. It includes homemade satellite programs, to have a AIT center in Baku, Azerbaijan, and also to have space education projects in order to encourage new generations to pursue their career in space specifically. And to achieve these goals, we believe we need to have strong international relations and collaborations with leading space agencies. And also, we believe in order to have a successful space ecosystem, we need to have a regulatory framework. And for this purpose, now we are working on the law on space activities, and it's under revision of the governmental level. And when it is confirmed, we believe that we will be able to encourage new space actors to have their, let's say, startups in Azerbaijan. So we have plans to grow, and I would like to give small statistics that from the beginning of the year and by end of this year, I would say that our team is getting bigger and bigger. So now we are 170 people working at Azercosmos, and since we are exploring new initiatives and to have new programs, we are anticipating that by end of this year we will be having 200 people working at Azercosmos. So there is a plan, and we will do our best to achieve all those goals stated in our strategy.
Thank you. With the remaining time, I might turn to our final lightning question that I've asked prior to this session to all of our panelists. What does a good space ecosystem mean to you? So I'd like to then start from Armen and give us a succinct answer to what does a good space ecosystem mean to you and where we should be going.
Again, with fostering education and outreach from the early moments in the childhood, for guarantee in the future a strong ecosystem not in the country but in a region.
Yes, for me, a good ecosystem is one that stimulates, of course, the talent and also regulates the activity in a sense to enable new players to join and give them the stepping stones or the roadmaps for achieving technology and developments that can operate, have some sort of interoperability between them to achieve then bigger projects. And also the dialogue with the industry and the society is very important.
So I'll say, and make reference to a presentation that again was made earlier. A good space ecosystem is one that addresses the human capital need by putting in place the requisite tools to ensure that the sector is well capacitated. One that has sufficient infrastructure to allow those people who are capacitated to be able to deliver the services and products, and one that also engages with the stakeholders to ensure that the needs of the space sector addresses the societal needs, and one that is guided by international and regional collaboration, which one of the most important things in our view is the element of co-design and working together as opposed to having turnkey projects. Thank you.
If it is self-sustaining and evolving, so we can call it a good space ecosystem. And also it's crucial to enable humanity to have socioeconomic benefits without limiting the meet of needs of next generations. So I believe it's a good space ecosystem.
Thank you so much to all the panelists, and we're just right on time. So co-evolution, again, is a great phrase. I thank the program committee for giving us this opportunity to discuss this, and we're better to discuss this than IAF. It's been always a window to the space community, and I hope it will be the window to the global space ecosystem from now. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Masami, for the excellent moderation, and a big thanks to all the speakers for your contributions. And as usual, please give us the honor to have a group picture with you on stage.